Hello there, everyone. Today we are going to be completing a spread in my sketchbook, and I want to paint, so we're painting. So in my book, if I just do a little flip through, there's a lot of like human people, so I decided to do a page of not humans to break it up because there's too many humans. I don't know if I'm gonna start here or here. I think I'll start with this one. I'm going to be using the Holbein Artist Gouache paint. I have basically the primary mixing set, so I just have permanent white, and then the rest are the colors straight from the set: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. I don't think I'll need this, but last time I painted with gouache, I did need it. I have this Winsor Newton designer's gouache in flame red. We're gonna start with this little kitty cat, so I'm gonna zoom in on it. Or do you want to see my palette? I should have thought about the layout more before actually starting, huh? Okay, I think that works. What I'm actually gonna do, instead of going in with black, unless I need to darken this one, I'm gonna replace the black with Prussian blue, just a deep blue color. I just like the way it looks in place of the black. So this is like the only time you're gonna see my palette in the whole video. That's it. I just have my colors laid out in that way, and then I have two globs of white, one for mixing and then one for when I need white. They eventually end up mixing together anyway, it's whatever. Starting off with this cat, I'm doing a little periwinkle light ultramarine for the sky, because that's the color of the sky, and I'm painting in. I'm doing everything with this flat brush. It's kind of like super gross and not that flat anymore, but it's flat enough. And I'm coming in doing my little details. I don't like to use pure white or pure black in any pieces, just because, like, live a little, right? So instead of white, I'm using like this creamy yellow, and instead of black, I go in with a navy. And I had a lot of fun with this one. It was fairly simple and a little pinkish, purplish for the shadows. I tried to keep most of this footage in real time, so you could see me how long it actually takes to paint a painting. I don't know. I cut out a lot of my pauses because you can't hear it, but I am singing the entire time, and sometimes I pause to sing. Here for this orange, it's at this point I realized I should have done like an underpainting, but I didn't, so I just did it to be like a kind of pseudo, is it pseudo or pseudo? I think it's pseudo underpainting for the black parts, so that's where like the highlights are gonna be. Little toe beans. Doing voiceovers is hard, guys. Anyway, I wish I had gone in with that like bright orange. I think that's actually the flame red straight out of the tube. I wish I did that for the underpainting for this, because that would have been quite nice, especially with like the blue sky and the whatever, but I didn't, so that's just too bad. And here this is just the Prussian blue and the black, and I think it's some white. I think it's basically just every color mixed together. And I'm painting that cat nice and blurry. When I was doing these studies, I tried to keep in mind like what I actually wanted to study rather than directly copying the reference. So I was trying to simplify things, kind of, because sometimes, I don't know if it's just me, but when I copy a reference, I'll get too caught up in the details, and then it'll be like super detailed, but then also look bad because it's detailed but like not in the right places, and it's just bad. So I was trying to be mindful of simplifying things in an aesthetically pleasing manner while doing these. So like trying to keep big shapes, trying to keep my shadows in one big shape rather than like putting a shadow everywhere I see a shadow. I was trying to have like big block groups so it was more pleasing and not like blah 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 like all over the place, you know? Does that make sense? You can kind of see it where like the legs and the tails, there's one tail, the legs and the tail, I tried to combine that all into one shape. Even though they're like three distinct forms in the reference, it was more pleasing to have it all be one shape, so your eye like flows through it better. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense. Anyway, I just went in with some little details with like a slightly darker purple. Then I started doing the whiskers in paint, and I realized it'd probably be easier to do this in colored pencil. So I come back later with Prismacolor pencil. I started trying to do it with the very thin pencils, which are my favorite, but they don't show up on top of gouache. So I had to change to the regular like Premier pencils, and obviously they worked fine. Everyone uses those. So yeah, I do that to fix the eyes, which aren't in the reference, but I added them anyway. And then whiskies, and that was that. That's the very thin there, just adding a little bit of extra shading on the chin. And then that's that one. There's Hamish. I lost the footage for that. My SD card formatted, so Hamish is lost to the times, which is sad because I think he's my favorite, maybe my second favorite out of all these pages. That's too bad. That's them. I was so bad at peeling this tape. It was embarrassing. Very embarrassing. Now, I think this one's my favorite. This is a little fitch, because I just wanted to paint a fish. Fish seemed fun to paint, so I went in with it. Did a little magenta underpainting. I started with the background here, just because, I don't know, I was feeling it. There's not really a rhyme or reason why I do anything. Went in with this nice purple. It's purple. I think this is a rainbow trout. I was trying to think in my head, like, what's that fish that looks like a watermelon? And everyone said it was a rainbow trout. And when I googled rainbow trout, the watermelon fish did come up. But there was another fish that looked like the same, but like inverted, like upside down. I can't remember what the name of the fish was. Whatever. That green stripe was like the most satisfying footage out of this whole thing. I think this one, it came out the best, and I had the most fun doing it. It was just like good colors, pleasing colors. I boosted the saturation like just the right amount. I could have boosted it more, but like it was like I was pleased with the outcome. That pink stripe's probably the second most satisfying footage out of all of this. Yeah, fish. But like the way I up the contrast, like obviously in the reference picture, the shadows aren't like bright cyan, but I did it anyway, and it looked so good because it had like this one ends up having all the colors of the rainbow, which is so fitting because like, you know, rainbow trout, like yeah. But very pleased with the outcome of this. At the time of recording this, my sketchbook has 2 pages, like 2.5. I have like 2 half-finished ones, and then one third finished, and then that's it. So my next video is probably going to be sketchbook tour, which is very exciting, because I would like to move on to the next one. Not that I'm sick of the old one, I just have more things that I would like to draw, and I have no pages to draw them on. So, very exciting things happening. It's nice that I got that sketchbook finished in 4 months? I don't know. Because the last sketchbook I had took 4 years. I have a video about it. It was a rough time. Anyway, back to the fish. This is like the most satisfying. I said that 2 times, but it's just like putting that contrast in of the shadows makes it like, wow. Like it makes it like pop, pop, pop. Yeah. I feel like I use the colors really well here. Hello. Come to life now that the eyeball's in there. The worst part of this, I'm painting the arm now, but the worst part was putting the spots. Because I don't know if I'm the only person in the world that has this problem, but every time I try and do a randomized pattern of something, and I put spots or like stars in a sky or something like that, it always ends up in like a perfect grid. I don't know why that happens. Perhaps related to OCD. Even if I'm not intending to do so, it's a perfect grid, but then when I want something to be a perfect grid, it does not happen for me. I'm not very good at straight lines. I'm not good at keeping things aligned unless it's unintentional. I don't know what that is. It makes randomized patterns like cheetahs and things not easy. Yeah. These hands look wild. It's just because in the reference picture, it's like direct sunlight. Once the entire thing is finished, like in context, they look fine. But putting down like the local colors, they look crazy. Also, that hand on the left, it looks like ass. It ends up looking fine at the end, but it looks like shit poop. It's bad. Here's the spots. You can kind of see it. On the fin, they're supposed to be aligned, but you can see me accidentally doing like grids. This was so fun though. I want to paint more fish. I think everybody should paint fish. It was just so freeing, so fun. I think the whole thing only took like an hour and a half, not including drying time. I do spend a lot of time just sitting, staring at the wall, waiting for the paint to dry. But just the painting part, I think it took about an hour and a half, so that was fun. Because it's not very big, and it's just the right amount of complicated. Adding the little highlights and white gouache. Oh, look at the head. It looks so good. Look at me go. I'm just blotting them with my finger because I didn't want them to be like too stark white. Then I wrote fitch because it felt like it was missing something. So it's a fish. So I wrote fitch. Yep. Self-explanatory. This took a lot out of me because I have terrible penmanship. Then I felt like the shadow wasn't like punchy enough, so I just put a little more saturated blue. And then I realized the purple was kind of the mid-tone. It was too mid. Let me try that sentence again. The purple, nope. The contrast between the fish and the background. There we go. There wasn't enough, so I just added a little bit of a darker purple outline to make the fish stand out more, and I think that really helped. Really, brought it together. And then I go in with my favorite. Is it like crimson? Maybe Tuscan red. It looks like Tuscan red. My Prismacolor very thin pencil, just to add a little bit of details. I 100% could do this with paint if I wanted to, but you know what I didn't want to do? I didn't want to do that. They're just studies for fun, and if I did it with paint, I wouldn't be having fun. Here's the last one. These two pigeons. When I say these birds were kicking my ass, kind of an understatement. They were really... It was not a good time. It doesn't really show that much in the video. You can tell, especially compared to the fish, that this was not a walk in the park for me, but I was in absolute anguish painting these birds. I took maybe like 4 hours of break while trying to paint these. I just had to stop painting because it was not happening for me. Like, they started out okay, but it's the bird on the right that was really it was not happening. And also, this was like at the end of the paint. I took place over 2 days because after I lost the footage for Hamish, I was like, I don't want to paint anymore. But this was like the end of the second session, and my palette was a mess. Like, it was like sopping fucking wet. All my colors were bleeding into each other. It was a mess. And then the painting wasn't going well, which was sad because the drawing went fine. Like, the drawing happened very fast. But the painting, sometimes the painting just isn't meant to happen. Like, you can see me hesitating because I'm like, uh-oh, this isn't going well. Not a good time. I'm quite pleased with the end result, but it was a journey to get there. See, with the left bird, you can see I'm going in with, like, broad swaths of color. I don't know if that was the correct turn of phrase, but I said it anyway. I said it with confidence. And I'm going to say it again. I went in with broad swaths of color, huge sweeping brush strokes, and I was like, yup, this is working. And then that bird on the right, it was not working. I do like the colors I picked for this one again. Pigeons are actually quite beautiful, just in general anyway, but I just always like to bump up the saturation. Like, they are kind of a bluish, purplish gray in real life. But now they're, like, blue and purple. For real. I feel like at this point, even though the birds were kind of, like, kicking my butt, like, my technique and, like, the way I was handling the brush was, like, at its peak here. Like, you can see the way I'm, like, drawing with the brush and applying the paint. It felt good, felt natural. I was doing it all right, like, for me. Like, there's not, like, a wrong way to do it, but, like, it felt correct in my head. Yes. I love the little iridescent part that pigeons have on their neck. You can see me, I'm just beefing it on this right bird. I'm so sorry. I do come back and fix it, but oh man. But the little iridescent part they have, they're just such beautiful creatures. And I get to see them all the time. And I like them quite a lot, even though they're like the winged rats of New York. Those are my friends. Oh, the little green. Oh, so beautiful. Such lovely birds. And beefing it again on this bird. I promise you, I come back and fix it and it looks fine in the end. I actually didn't really like the end result when I finished painting it at first. Looking at it now, like, it looks fine. Like, it's not the best thing I've ever painted, but it's far from the worst. But I think it was just because the process was really beating my ass that I didn't like it when I was done. But it came out okay, I think. I don't know if we're starting to save this bird on the right yet. It takes a minute. I keep going back to the wings on this right bird because I'm like, well, surely if I fix the wings, it'll look better when the neck is clearly the problem. But you know what? Whatever made me feel better, I suppose. At this point, I was like, this bird, this was after, it was either right before or right after one of my 2-hour breaks. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fill the background in now, even though I didn't finish either of the birds, because I'm like, well, this is easy. Can't possibly mess this up. So I just mixed together, the background is black, but I don't like using pure black, so I mixed together the black and the Prussian blue, and it makes such a beautiful, like, delicious looking, like a rich kind of velvet, dark navy color. It's just very pleasing to look at. It's one of my favorite colors. It's so pretty. So I just filled in the whole background with that. And then I didn't mix enough paint, so I had to water it down and then wait for it to dry and then fill it in. But it's one of those, like, oddly satisfying things to do, you know? It feels good to fill in a large block of color. Yeah. It was kind of fiddly going around the text in the upper right corner, but we got there in the end. It was fine. You can see where it's really streaky that the paint was thinned out, but I did do another coat in the end. Now we're finally fixing this poor bird's neck. I lied. We're fixing both of their necks at the same time, even though the one on the left isn't that bad. Then I had to jump in with the pencils, even though I wasn't done, because I'm like, something has to be done. Surely something can be done to save these poor avian fellows. And like, I didn't need to do that. Then I went in and I'm like, I still don't want to fix it, so I added the purple outline. It's just with the Posca pen, back with the colored pencils, and then I decided, okay, we have to go back to painting. They can't be saved unless I actually go in and use paint. At this point, I started to have hope again, because I'm like, okay, they're looking like birds. And I just keep going in on those wings instead of fixing the neck. Fix the neck, dude, that's the problem. It's okay. And I'm like, what if I had more contrast in other areas? Like, does it improve it? Yes, but that's not the part that needs fixing. A little orange for the eyes, and then adding the pupil. And then I messed up the pupil, so I go back and fix it later. It's okay. Now we're fixing the neck. We're getting somewhere. Yes, the dark green, that's what it needed. It needed that so bad. And there we go. I think this is where I just accepted my fate and decided to call it after this. Yep. And I had to fix the eye again, of course. Now I'm just adding the details. I think at this point I was like, okay, we've saved it. It's no longer just doody poo poo. It's what's the word I'm looking for? Acceptable? I think that's the word I'm looking for. I don't know which page I like more, because I think Hamish is my favorite on the page on the right, but the fish is my favorite on the page on the left. But I don't hate any of them, which is nice, because sometimes when you're trying to do a spread and fill the whole spread, you'd be like, okay, all right, and then get a real stinker. But I didn't get any stinkers on this one, so that was nice. Quite pleased with this spread, if I do say so myself. I don't think I have anything else left to say. Well, that's it for this spread. Made a huge mess, but I'm quite pleased with the results. It's nice to have some non-human things in my sketchbook to spice it up a little bit. A little variety. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!